In this video, we'll be going over the permanent character unlocks that can be earned throughout your campaign playthrough of PoE2 and where they're located. Each act has multiple unlocks available, including 20% to all resistances, 24 weapon set skill points, 100 spirit, and more. Some of them can be easy to miss, and a couple of them are choices that you can't change later, which I'll point out when we get to them. Keep in mind this is based on the current state of PoE2, which only has Acts 1 through 3 and Cruel difficulty, so this will change at some point, likely when Act 4 becomes available, but as far as we know the campaign is not really changing with Dawn of the Hunt, so this should be accurate for the time being. If and when that changes, I'll update the description of this video, and we'll probably upload a new video going over it. Before we get started, you should know that for the most part, each of these is the same in normal and cruel difficulty. So for example, if you have to kill a boss in Act 1 for a buff, you'll have to kill it again in Act 4, aka Cruel Act 1, for another buff. In some cases the buff is the same, i.e. you get 10% cold resistance both times, and in others it's different. I'll specifically call out when it's different or specific to either normal or cruel difficulty. Otherwise, you can assume that you'll need to do it twice and get the same reward again when you complete it again on cruel. It's also worth noting that the world map has an indicator for these, but they can be easy to overlook at times. You'll see these icons indicating different encounters or points of interest in the game, and if it has this little icon under it, that means that it grants a permanent reward. If the icon is grayed out and has a cross through it, that means you've already completed the objective and received the reward, so you can use this to double check if you're unsure which ones you've already done. I'll be covering both normal and cruel versions of each act at the same time since they're so similar, so if you're using this while you play, be sure to refer back to Act 1 once you hit cruel difficulty. Alright, now let's get into it. The first bonus you can receive in Act 1 is in Clearfell by defeating Byra of the Rotten Pack. This is an optional boss and she will drop an item that can be used to grant you 10% cold resistance in both normal and cruel for a total of 20% cold resistance. In the Hunting Grounds, there's an optional boss, Crowbell, that will drop a book granting 2 weapon set skill points in each difficulty. In Freythorn, defeating King in the Mists on normal difficulty will reward you with 30 spirit, and guarantees you an uncut spirit gem from your first kill by turning in a quest. This boss can be summoned by completing the ritual encounters around the map, and there is no permanent reward for completing it on cruel difficulty. In Ogham Farmlands, locate Una's loot inside of Una's hut and deliver it to her in town for 2 weapon skill points. In Ogham Village, locating the smithing tools and delivering them to Renly in town unlocks the salvaging bench. This only needs to be done once per league and then is available on your other characters within that league, and you also do not need to do it on cruel difficulty. In Ogham Manor, defeat Candlemas the Living Right for a bonus to life. The encounter can be started by clicking on the Psalm of Madness. In normal, this gives you plus 20% maximum life, and in cruel, it rewards you with a plus 8% increased maximum life. That wraps up everything from Act 1. In Act 2, the first thing you can find is in Keth. Defeating Kabbalah the Constrictor Queen will reward you with 2 passive skill points. While you're in Keth, you'll also want to collect the Kabbalah Clan Relic, which drops from random enemies. The relic is needed for another buff in Valley of the Titans, which I'll explain in just a minute. In the Bone Pits, defeat enemies until one of them drops the Sun Clan Relic. And then you'll take both relics to the Valley of the Titans. In the Valley of the Titans, near the waypoint, you should find an altar where you can insert the Kabbalah Clan Relic and Sun Clan Relic. Doing so will present you with a choice between 2 buffs. Either 30% increased charm charges gained, or 15% increased mana recovery from flasks on normal, and 15% increased life recovery from flasks on cruel. The choices you make here are not permanent. You can revisit the altar at any time to swap between them. In Deshar, locate the fallen Dakara, retrieve the final letter off their body, and deliver it to Shambrin at the caravan for 2 passive skill points. In the Spires of Deshar, find and click on the Sisters of Garukan Shrine for 10% lightning resistance. This one is especially easy to overlook as it's pretty hard to see on the world map. And now we're on to Act 3. First, this one isn't a buff, but in the Sandswept Marsh there's a basket you can click on to receive a guaranteed Lesser Jeweler's Orb. In the Jungle Ruins, kill Mighty Silverfist for 2 passive skill points. In the Azak Bog, kill Ignagduk the Bog Witch for 30 Spirit on Normal and 40 Spirit on Cruel. This boss also drops an uncut Spirit Gem on your first kill. In the Venom Crypts, find a Venom Vial and deliver it to Survey in town, which will reward you with one of 3 bonuses. The choice here is permanent. There's no way to change it currently in the game. Ideally that gets changed at some point, but for now you'll want to choose wisely. The choices are different on Normal and Cruel for this one. On Normal, you can choose between 25% increased stun threshold, 30% increased elemental ailment threshold, and 25% increased mana regeneration rate. On Cruel, you choose between 10% chaos resistance, plus 5 to all attributes, or 15% reduced slowing potency of debuffs on you. In Juquani's Machinarium, defeat Blackjaw the Remnant for 10% fire resistance. For this one, you'll need to locate a small soul core and use it on the stone altar outside the boss room to open the door. In Aggorat, random enemies have a chance to drop a sacrificial heart, which can be sacrificed at an altar for 2 passive skill points. It's worth noting the sacrificial heart here also has a chance to drop in Utsal, but it must be sacrificed in Aggorat. And that's all of the permanent unlocks currently available in PoE2's early access. If you got everything, you should have plus 20% to all resistances, plus 24 weapon set skill points, plus 100 spirit, 20 maximum life, plus 8% increased maximum life, a buff of either 30% increased charm charges, or 15% mana recovery from flasks, another buff for 30% increased charm charges or 15% life recovery from flasks, and then your 2 permanent choices, again with the first being either 25% increased stun threshold, 30% increased elemental ailment threshold, or 25% increased mana regeneration rate, and your other one being either 10% chaos resistance, plus 5 to all attributes, or 15% reduced slowing potency of debuffs on you. Hopefully this video can help you out in your next playthrough of the campaign. If you did find it helpful or you enjoyed the video at all, be sure to toss it a like or subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a ton and is greatly appreciated. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.